Hi, thank you for watching DC Honeybees TV. This is Jeff talking about bee syrup today. We have done some bee tea in the past where you may have seen that video. Today we're going to make 2-to-1 sugar syrup, which is 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. We have done 1-to-1 in the past, but let's review the ratios so we're all clear. A pint of water weighs about 1 pound, and so half a gallon of water, which is 4 pints, needs to be matched with 4 pounds of sugar to make 1-to-1 sugar. If you're making syrup in a 5-gallon bucket, that would be 16 pounds of sugar for 2 gallons of water. And that will make you about 5 gallons of syrup. Because I buy most of my sugar in bulk and buy it in 10-pound bags versus 4-pound bags, I tend to increase my 1-to-1 syrup slightly in its richness of sugar. So in my 5-gallon bucket, I will mix 2 gallons of water with 20 pounds of sugar, and that will give me about 5 gallons worth of 1-to-1 syrup. So if 1-to-1 syrup is 20 pounds of syrup to 2 gallons of water, then 2-to-1 syrup is 40 pounds of sugar to 2 gallons of water. And those are the ratios we're going to be using to work with our 5-gallon bucket today. So what I have here is a gallon of water boiling on the stove in about a 3-gallon pot. We have to do this in stages because I don't have a pot that's large enough to do this all in one stage. But we're going to put 20 pounds of sugar in that 1 gallon of water. Before I do that, I'm going to turn the heat off, because there's so much sugar per water here. If that sugar hits the bottom of the pot, it could crystallize. It could caramelize if there's direct heat there. And caramelized sugar is bad for bees. It can kill them. So here is 20 pounds of sugar into 1 gallon of water. A note about sugar. Food prices have been going up and sugar's been getting more expensive. I generally can buy my sugar for about $5 for a 10-pound bag. That fluctuates sometimes. You usually have to find it on sale. If you do find it on sale for $5 a bag, go ahead and buy a ton of it. Also at Costco you can find it for a little more than $5 for a 10-pound bag. But this is a more expensive, obviously, a more expensive batch than 1-to-1 syrup in a 5-gallon bucket. So this will be $20 worth of sugar in 1 5-gallon bucket. So why do we do 2-to-1 sugar? Well, especially this time of year in fall, we want to get as much carbohydrate into the bees as possible so they have enough stores for winter. So it's a way of giving them, forcing them to take up more sugar more quickly. Also, if you have hives that are far away from where you generally work and you want to limit the number of times you have to go out there and feed them, you can feed them this 2-to-1 syrup. You can feed them this 2-to-1 syrup, and they'll get that much more time added between, or nutrition between intervals. So I have the sugar partially dissolved. I'm going to turn the heat back on again. And we're going to heat the syrup up. Right now you can see it's relatively cloudy. It's because there's a lot of sugar crystals in there. As the temperature of the syrup increases, those sugar crystals will dissolve. And we're going to add by the way, we're going to add a couple of other adjuncts here. We're going to add a little bit of salt, because the bees need salt. And one of the problems with a solution that's saturated with sugar is that when the sugar hits room temperature, or even worse, if the temperature outside drops below 50 degrees, you could get crystallization inside your feeders. One way to prevent solution from crystallizing is to add fructose and glucose, which gets in between the sucrose molecules and prevents it from crystallizing. And where do we get glucose and fructose? In corn syrup. So we're going to add about 1/4 cup of corn syrup to this. And then we can also create glucose and fructose in the syrup by adding an acid while the syrup is under heat. So we're going to add about 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, which is an acid, and the juice of half a lemon, and what the acid in the solution does is it inverts or converts some of the sucrose into glucose and fructose, which will help prevent the syrup from crystallizing. So we're going to stir this occasionally while it's under heat until it turns translucent, and that will be half of a 5-gallon batch. And then we'll repeat all of these steps again with the second batch. So I'm pouring this batch into my handy Home Depot bucket. It's very hot, so be very careful. So that's how you make, I'm just going to repeat that step again with another batch to bring us up to 5 gallons. That'll get 40 gallons of, or pardon me, 40 pounds of sugar into a 5-gallon bucket. It's a very thick syrup. It will help the bees get ready for the fall, and it will also prevent you from having to make too many visits. It's a bit more arduous than a 1-to-1 syrup, but at this time of year when you're trying to get your bees ready for fall, it's worth it. Thank you for watching DC Honeybees TV, and thank you for supporting our mission to get more bees on more rooftops and backyards in Washington, D.C.